Those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
You're right.
Oh, that you know what? That just prepared me for Soul Session.
That's right. It is time. The giveaway, we got the nice hat right here that we're going to be giving away with the logo, along with the t-shirt with the quote that everything you're looking for is on the other side of perseverance. Here's what I want to do, what we try to do in Soul Session, because our goal is to build a community, partner with you, encourage you, have a little fun in the live, and along with the podcast, and then actually, I'm going to share with you just a really quick thought of what I shared with our staff earlier. If you want to catch the whole thing, it's going to be up on our channel in, do you guys know when?
You make that decision.
It's going to be up. Tell them. It's going to be up soon. It's going to be up soon. So let me share with you, because here's what we talked about. Change. Everybody has to deal with change. So let me give you a thought or two about change and how to lead through change. Now, you know these things. It's just sometimes it's good to be reminded of what we need to do as leaders. And this is not just if you own a business or if you're a part of a ministry, but even in your own relationships. All right. So here's some things to think about. When I taught this to our staff, I looked at the story of Joshua, which is incredibly unique. All the scripture will be there. There'll be an outline you can download. All that kind of stuff is coming up soon. But I just wanted to give you an overview of the ideas to be thinking about. And the first thing we talked about is that change is constant. In other words, things are always changing around you. And with that in mind, and man, change is a lot quicker today than it was in the past. Change has always been there, but it just seems to move so quick. I remember, you know how I learned to type? We were talking about typing earlier.
Typewriters.
On a typewriter.
Yeah, wow. I figured.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that mean? You figured.
Just means
I don't like the way you said that. you. When I was in school, there were no computer. I didn't see a computer at school until 12th grade.
You used to etch things in stone.
And I had to write code in DOS.
Wow.
Pastor Nick.
Wow. Look at
so
that.
So that's why MS-DOS. Thank you.
So you've got more coding experience than any of us.
That's right. Yeah. So I could make an app that lets you know when your dog's got to go potty.
Sure. That you could.
So just so you know. So change is constant. That's what I'm saying. In just my lifetime, I've went from no cell phones to everybody having us, right, Harley? I know. Harley's here, by the way. No cell phone to all cell phones. Change is constant. So you and I have to be, we have to be looking for it. We have to be aware of it. And we have to be aware of the fact that we're all resistant to change. Here at the church, we have a green room, and we changed to a different side. And the worship team is now on the green room that we had. And that has impacted us. It's impacted. Will, what do you think about that?
I'm super grateful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Will.
I heard people at Publix talking about it.
Did you?
It's reached out everywhere.
Yes, yes. See, now I forgot what I was going to say.
Change impacts
everybody.
Yes.
Because even our grandkids keep saying, are we going to the real green room? You know, because everything's different. So there's a resistance to change. And I know you don't think you're resistant to change, but you're only not resistant to the change that you want to make. Okay. We all tend to be resistant to change because change is change. The second thing I just jotted down is that the future is dangerous. In other words, there's risk involved in leading change because it's change. You've never been there before. You don't know how it's going to go. You don't know. I remember when the iPhone came out, I'm ashamed to say, I didn't think it was going to go very well.
Wow.
And the reason I didn't is because before the iPhone, every instrument that you had that you used the screen to type in was terrible. I had a, what was that called? That had the little keyboard at the bottom?
Blackberry.
No.
Palm Pilot.
Palm Pilot.
Wow, Carson.
I had
Come on.
and you weren't, that's before your time. But I had a Palm Pilot and you could
And I
touch
was
the
alive.
screen. But you were?
Yeah.
But it didn't work very well. So I didn't think the iPhone would work. And of course, we all know it's changed the world, right? So, but there are lots of other ones that tried that didn't work. In other words, there's always risk involved in our perception of going into change, the courage it takes to go into change. Even Joshua in the story was going to go to a new place. And God says, don't be afraid, be strong, be courageous, be strong, be courageous. Because there's a lot of points along the road of change in which you can exit, right? And which you're tempted to give up. So change is constant and change is risky. And by risky, what I mean is you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to take place, and you don't know when it's going to take place, and you're not exactly sure how much it's going to end up costing. Who was it? I can't remember who it was, but one of the inventors, had screwed up, and they were asking him about it, and he was basically saying, you know what? It's not that I failed. I found 100 ways in which not to do something. Yeah. And that's just all perspective, right? In the way in which we look at things. The other thing I jotted down is that change demands new faith to take new ground. In other words, if you're going somewhere you've never gone before, you can't do things the way you've always done them. There's a tendency to want to hang on to what you've always done. John Maxwell says, if the horse is dead, to dismount. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to do, because here's the change that most of us like to make is do what we're doing better, or to do what we're doing like we used to do it. You know what? We used to do it and it used to work, and we just somewhere along the way drifted away. So let's go back and do it again. Even when you think about Trump's slogan, it's like, let's make America great again. So it kind of looks to the past to project into the future, but there's a temptation in all of us to not be willing to do something different. But if you want to do something that hasn't been done, then you've got to do something different. I mean, that sounds really, really simple, but I just think in my own life, how often I just want to do something better, thinking it's going to get me new results, as opposed to taking the risk of doing something different. And one of the things that I've done over the years to try to make myself not as resistant to change is to intentionally change. That's the reason we changed, rooms. I wanted to honor the worship team, and I wanted them to know we value them and they're important and all of that. But I also know that small changes like that keep us flexible in order to make big changes. And we're living in a culture that's changing really quickly. Yeah. I mean, pastors are discovering all over the world that people's commitment looks different. Their faithfulness looks different. So I don't know exactly what the future holds, but maybe there's some big change out there. And if we don't make changes along the way, you can imagine a congregation of people are going to push back really hard. And I think the same way for me. One of the things that I've done is try at different times is to change what I teach from, the iPad or the Bible or a different Bible or a paper outline. To use different podiums or different chairs, right? Small things, but you feel them, and I think those things are important. And then the other two that I jotted down is one, leaders lead change, right? If you and I if not, you're going to get left behind, or you're going to be a short-term leader. Leaders lead change. And in order to lead change, I have to be know what is happening, be aware of what's happening in the world, right? I can't get in my little corner and not pay attention to anything, or just, no, I have to be outside of myself to know kind of what's going on, to watch people, to watch trends, all those different kind of things, or I'm no longer a leader. How many people do you know who it led? I'm in the church world, right? In ministry. If you went back to the 1970s to the top 10 fastest growing or largest churches, and you go to the 80s, it'd be a whole different group, right? You go to the 90s, it'd be a whole different group, and so often the reason is because we just get comfortable. Comfort is a great thing, isn't it? right? You know where everything is. You know what you need to do. You got the schedule. It takes me this long to do this. And then all of a sudden, when you change something, all of that gets turned on its head. But it's on that getting turned on its head that you discover something new, something exciting. In the church world, multi-site was something that having an incredible impact for a while. And it came as a result of pastors being willing to do something different. And you know what you heard over and over again is people won't do that. People won't go to watch a teacher on video. They just won't. I don't want to do that. I won't do that. Now, the ones who had become Christ followers often wouldn't do that. But new followers, the largest church in the country is a multi-site church. And it's a video multi-site church. It's not different speakers at the church campuses. It's a video at the campuses. Live worship, video teaching. And then lastly, change takes preparation. We all have to, again, make small changes to remain flexible. If all of a sudden I declared a fire and we all ran out of here, some of us haven't stretched enough. And as a result, we'd pull a muscle. And the same thing happens with change. If I'm not prepared for change, change can then be destructive. I lead it poorly. People get hurt. I get mad, right? All these things, all these horror stories of change are the result of not being prepared for change. And we're not prepared for change because we assume we've hit the gold mine, especially if you've had success. It's easier to change if you're not having success. It's like, let's try something. But if you're having success in a certain area of your life or your business or ministry, it's much more difficult to lead out in change. And so you have to prepare knowing that ultimately the change that needs to be made is going to be outside of your comfort zone. And those are the hardest ones to lead. It's easy for me to lead a change I want to change. It's more difficult for me to lead a change into something that maybe is beyond my comfort zone, but where we need to go in order to be productive. And sometimes, think about it, just parents sometimes have a hard time with the change in their children, right? Their kids get older and they have a hard time realizing there's a change that's going to take place. I always tell people this: your kids are eventually going to look at you the same way you look at your parents. And that doesn't mean you don't love your parents, but what does it mean? It means that when I think about my parents, I don't think about my parents the way I think about my kids. What I mean is when you guys were home, it's like, this is us, right? It's me, Steph, and the 3 kids. We're in the car, we go on vacation together, and then one of them gets married, and okay, now it's me, the 3 kids, and a wife, but the reality is they're all going to start their own lives, and they're going to have their own families, and they're going to hopefully love, mom and dad, but it's going to be different. And I can either lead that change or I can pull against that change. And you see parents do that, and it hurts the in-laws, it hurts the grandkids, and it's all about change and the unpreparedness for parents to deal with it. And it happens for pastors and it happens for business leaders. Change is a part of life. And so I just wanted to encourage you. Don't be afraid of it, right? Change is a good thing. It's a part of living. It's a part of life. It produces new life. It takes us to the future. And lead it. Lead it in your family. Lead it in your business. Lead it in ministry. Don't be afraid of it. And it'll be exciting to see what lies ahead.